back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Education, the Teachers Talking Terror podcast, where myself, Mike,
and myself, Courtney,
are back to just talk about one movie this week. Just one. Not 7, not 11, one film.
That's why we're back so quick at it, too.
I know. It has been, I'm not kidding, it's been a breath of fresh air. Just watching one movie. I think I started watching it that night, actually. I was like, let's just do it. So we are back this week to talk about the 1977 film Scalpel. Its original name was False Face, but like I kind of mentioned last week, I like Scalpel better as the title. I think it has definitely more of a horror film name to it. I'd never heard of this movie prior to it shuffling onto the scene last week. Let's see, because last week, now we talked a little bit pre-show, getting back into what our rotation looks like. Last week was a shuffle week, and then you've got this week's pick.
Yes.
I'm going to handle next week's pick, and due to underwhelming quality of the scratch-off movie poster, many of the, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great films on the poster we didn't get to, but there's a lot of great films on the poster we would have gotten to anyway. Like you picked Candyman last week. Candyman was off the scratch-off poster. I think I picked Blair Witch one week. That was off the scratch-off poster.
Yeah.
The Exorcist, we'll get to that eventually. You know, like there's all the good ones we'll get to, but we've just been stricken with so many duds off that list. Not all of them, but enough of them that we're like, eh. So I have a copy of the 2003 Fangoria's 101 Best Horror Films You've Never Heard of or Seen or something like that. So we're going to replace our scratch-off movie poster with this list of Fangoria films. And so I'm excited for that because I kind of forgot I had the book and I was thinking, what are we going to do for a fourth week rotation? Then I was looking at my bookshelf. It's like literally right up here behind me. Let me just pull it real quick. But yeah, so the Fangoria guide here. And even looking at the cover there, it's like, yep, that looks like horror films that are right up our alley. So 101 movies off that list. We're going to tackle as much as we can. Some of them we already have, like I was telling you pre-show. Last House on the Left, I Spit on Your Grave, The Stepfather. Those are 3 movies off that list. I will warn you now, there are some foreign films. Okay, just giving you that fair heads up.
Okay.
There are some foreign films.
And you know, the foreign film will probably be the first one we shuffle from that. And I'm going to be like...
You never know, but we'll figure it out. But anyway, so we're here today just to talk about one movie. That movie is Scalpel. Before we even get to the grading, like sometimes in the classroom, we get really excited to introduce a lesson or a unit or something, even before we try to get the kids like built up and to be excited for it. For not knowing anything about this film, I liked this movie.
I did too. It was solid.
It was a well acted movie. And no, very just under the radar. Like this is probably a movie that's probably tough to get a hold on. I mean, look at Just Watch and see if this movie is streaming anywhere. I was really surprised with the quality of this film.
Same. Like it just, like you said, well acted.
Tight story. Like
it stayed to the plot. I mean, it had enough to where it was like, okay, this is way too far fetched. Like it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. This movie is, if you have a Fandor subscription, you can watch it. Screenbox, you can rent it on Apple TV. It is available on Tubi and Midnight Pulp with ads. So yeah, it is available to watch. You might see it if it's not listed as Scalpel. Like I said, you might see it as False Face. Before we get to grading, I recommend it. Like, if you get a chance, go watch this movie. It's not straight up horror. You don't have monsters, et cetera, et cetera. We'll get to all that when we get to our review here. But overall, I was really pleasantly surprised by this film. So what's this movie about? We've got, it's a very simple premise. Philip is a plastic surgeon and we find out he's also a sociopath. The guy is a maniac, but not in like an uncontrolled way. He just only cares about himself.
Right.
He's a plastic surgeon, and we kick off where his father-in-law, who's a millionaire, passes away.
Yeah.
And he and his brother, he's a widow, by the way. Philip's a widow. And he has one daughter, Heather. We'll get to Heather and where and why in a minute. But Philip's father-in-law, who's a millionaire, dies and left $5 million to Heather, the daughter, to his granddaughter, Philip's daughter. Like the entire $5 million estate. He left his dog to his only son, Bradley.
Yeah.
Bradley and Philip aren't really that different.
No.
Other than Philip, I think he's just more successful.
Yeah.
On his own. I think Bradley lived off his dad's millionaire curtails.
Correct.
But he left the entire $5 million estate to Philip's daughter, Heather. Heather's been missing for quite a long time.
Yeah, she ran off from home.
Why'd she ride off from home? Speaking of sociopathic father.
Yeah, because her and her boyfriend got caught making out.
I think they were doing yeah. How creepy was that scene where they're starting to get intimate and dad is just standing at the window watching?
No, I'm sorry. I couldn't imagine. Nope, no thank you.
Like, I can understand.
It makes me cringe just thinking about that.
It's one thing to, like, walk in on your kid.
And be like,
yeah, it's one thing to, like, unexpectedly see what you've seen.
Yes.
But dad is he's, like, eating popcorn. Like, he's watching his daughter and her boyfriend.
It's like he's seen a train wreck that he can't look away from.
But it's like
he should look away from.
Like, knock on the window to get him to stop or something. But nope, he let it go. He just watched the session.
And so Heather had witnessed all of that. So she ran away, and like nobody that we knew of at this point knew where she was.
I thought for a good portion of this movie until here, we're getting there. I thought for a good portion of this movie that he killed her too.
Yeah, I could see that.
They just didn't show it.
Right.
Like I said, he hid in the boyfriend's car and killed him, like, very like slasher movie style. And then, like you said, just like his daughter watched him do it. Like, not the killing, but the depositing of the body. So yeah, Heather's gone because of what happened with her boyfriend. Philip realizes that my daughter's entitled to this $5 million. And again, being a sociopath, he wants his hands on it. She's not around. Philip and Bradley spent a lot of time together. They're actually out drinking one night. They're on their way home. We cut to just this kind of completely random nightclub.
Yeah.
That Philip and Bradley aren't even at. Like, this bouncer is like pulling this woman out. People are just watching as he just beats this woman's face against the wall. Like, basically bashes her skull in.
Yeah.
And then just throws her out on the road. Philip and Bradley almost run her over.
Good thing Philip's that a plastic surgeon was driving by at this time.
It was very, very helpful for both of them, actually. So Philip takes her to the hospital. Of course, nobody questions any of this stuff of why Philip's bringing in this beat up stripper. But he has a plan because all this is unfolding. And it really didn't take long to figure out what the plan was. Right. Obviously, it's, my daughter is missing. And if I have my daughter, then we can get the money. And here's a girl that is built just like my daughter. So he basically gives her plastic surgery to make this woman, Jane Doe, as she goes by in the movie, to make Jane look like Heather.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the same actress. And kudos to her. She did a heck of a job in this movie.
Yeah, she did.
And so she comes out of it. She's very reminiscent of Goodnight Mommy, as she's like wrapped her face in bandages or whatever. But Philip's very wide open with her.
Yeah.
And
Like,
he's like,
you'll get 2.5. I
yeah,
want 2.5.
yeah.
Like, you just need to get her mannerisms down and all of
Hmm.
that. And it was like, it was very like parent trappy as well. I
Oh,
felt like,
yeah.
we're going to just practice. Like, who's this? What do they do? Here's
Right.
this backstory. And it just showed like their bond. I felt like just getting so much stronger.
Oh, yeah. Well, because they're
And
both benefiting.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he's coaching her,
Mm-hmm.
and she's was obviously not in a spot in her life where $2.5 million was going to come
Yeah,
rolling in at any point. So it's a
exactly.
huge benefit to both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like we voila, like Philip lets everyone know, hey, Heather's back, everybody. Let's have a party so we all can celebrate Heather.
Except there's one thing they didn't practice during these weeks.
Yeah, Heather's pretty good at piano.
And Jane has no clue how to play it. And
No.
I feel like this is my one thing, which it tied in later to the movie, but I'm like, Philip, how could you forget that your daughter is this musical prodigy and not teach this
Right.
Jane to do it? Which he's like, she had like some trauma, like it'll come back to her. It's,
Yeah.
one of those things. He played it off just fine. But I'm just like, oh man, because Uncle Bradley is like, no.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
sniffed this out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because again, they're at this party and she just refuses to play.
Yeah.
And everybody else is fine. That's fine. But Bradley's not up on it.
No.
And so they do, like, they get their money. They get the $5 million. But this part is also super creepy. They also begin to get very romantic, which
part
which honestly is not surprising, except you made her look like your daughter.
Yes, like this also just gross. Like, you have trained this girl to have the exact mannerisms of your daughter, and then you're like, I want to sleep with you.
Yeah. It is disturbing.
Is that why you killed the boyfriend? Because he was sleeping with your daughter? Like,
I really don't think so. I really don't. Like, I'm again, it's all matter of perception.
Yeah.
I just think he's a controlling sociopath.
Yeah.
I really don't think he had it in for his daughter, but it's just almost like a super reversed Bizarro Oedipus complex.
Yeah.
Of like, I can have my cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Like, here's my beautiful daughter, but she's also attracted to me because it's not really my daughter. It's gross.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they don't show a lot of it. They don't play up on that too much other than just planting that seed.
Yeah.
So they come home one day. Again, Philip and Jane are living large. Like, they're perfectly fine. Again, Bradley's always kind of been on the fringes. Like we said, he's pretty suspicious of the piano thing. And we thankfully, red herring, established earlier that, he's got a heart condition.
Yeah.
So they come home one day and Bradley's waiting for him, and he's just calling him out. Like, I don't think Heather's Heather. I think she's an imposter. I know you're a plastic surgeon, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think this is right. And he makes Jane sit at the piano and play piano. Of course, she can't do it. And he ends up having a heart attack. And really, this is, to me anyway, this is where Jane started to realize who she's dealing with.
Yeah, because Philip just takes away his meds and is just like playing on the piano.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
and Jane's like, help him. And he's like, do you want to play, Philip? Like, or Bradley? Like, just like, he was perfectly content with Bradley dying here.
Yeah. And we are now introduced to Heather.
Yes.
At Bradley's funeral as she's watching everything happen.
Another turn that you didn't really see coming. And they're in like New Orleans or something, because they're having like this big, like, Cajun style, like, brass band playing as they're walking through the cemetery. Yeah. And then, like you said, there's Heather watching from afar. And then I was just like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
like, how's Philip going to get out of this one? Because we've seen him kill the boyfriend. We've seen him have a hand in Bradley's death. We even saw, and to me, what was one of the more disturbing little cutaways of the movie is we saw what happened to his wife.
Yeah.
His wife drowned, which, okay, that's fine. That happens. But then they show this flashback of her drowning as he's like paddle boating around her,
Watching her.
like watching her drown.
Yeah.
That really shook me watching this
Mm-hmm.
movie because there was no violence, but it was just like, wow, like
Yeah.
you married this woman, you have a child with this woman, and it's one thing to like, I tried to save her and couldn't, but you just paddle boating
You
and
just
whistling.
watched her struggle.
Yeah. It just kept, oh, it was disturbing for me. So Heather's back on the scene, and now we've got this kind of creative filmmaking as we have, because it's again 1977, as we've got Jane and Heather
Mm-hmm.
in the same scene a lot. Now we do a lot of like the Friends, Phoebe and Ursula, where you've always looking at the back of one and the face of the other. But Heather's acting like there's nothing special here.
Right. Like, hi,
hey
Dad,
guys,
I'm back. I cooked
I made dinner. Yeah.
roast. And I'm just, I'm going to go talk to the lawyer because Philip told her that all Grandpa's money has been left to a college. And so
Yeah.
she's like, okay. And like, Jane's like, what? And Philip's like, I think you should go talk to the lawyer. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
And, so then Philip goes on to like proceed with this hitman.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like telling Jane, I'm gonna hire a hitman to kill Heather, when in fact it's the other way around.
Right. He's hired the hitman to kill Jane, because if Jane's out of the picture, he's got his hands on the full $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Because Heather doesn't, at least to this point, Heather doesn't know that she's got $5 million coming to her, and it's already been delivered. So yeah, see, this is where it's like she's in like a bathing suit, and they're just chasing her through the woods. Did it surprise you that she was alive?
No.
It's one of those where like, unless you show me her, show her dying, or it didn't happen.
Yeah. Because this next scene, I immediately knew like it was her. Like yeah, and so Philip goes to the house, tells Heather like, took care of Jane just for you, like she was impeding on our relationship, like she was just a toxic, dangerous person. And he starts like going after Heather. Like,
I think the dude's crazy, obviously.
Yeah, and he's like, I feel as if all of this has just pushed him over the edge.
Yes.
To where he literally has no self-control now. Like he is just like he tries to rape his daughter.
Well, he's sexually been active with her doppelganger.
Yeah.
So in his mind, like, why, like, this is okay. Like,
yeah.
I even thought there for a little bit, he was confused on who was who.
I did too, because then they're like, no, we switched. We played a trick on him. And I'm like, okay, like
so I got confused.
I'm like, okay, so he really like went to go kill Jane, but then they switched, so then Heather got killed.
Right.
This is, and I was like, wait, and then
now he's with Jane, but he thinks it's Heather, and but it's anyway.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Jane shows up and knocks him out
with a cast iron skillet.
Bashes him over the head. It doesn't kill him, but just knocks him out.
Right.
So Heather and Jane realize we're both in with a crazy man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we get Heather's backstory of, I've been staying like at a mental institution with Dr. Dean. We saw Dr. Dean earlier. He was the guy with a 5 head. Super large forehead on this man. And so we get her backstory of like, when I saw my dad kill my boyfriend, I kind of went nuts. And
Understandable.
yeah, and Dr. Dean wanted to arrest my dad. But I wanted to understand where he's coming from. Like, because it's not normal behavior. And so Heather and Jane are now on the same page. Dr. Dean shows up because I'm gonna say he's been in on it, but he's aware of what Heather's been doing.
Yes.
And so they decide they're just, because Dean's like a psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever. Heather and Dean decide, let's mess with Philip. So when he comes to, they convince Philip that there was never a Jane. It's always been Heather. Always been Heather.
I like this part because I'm like, you deserve every bit of this. Like, they're like, want to play the piano? Want to do this?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to turn? Like, shoving alcohol down his throat. Like,
start seeing things. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I really like this part.
Yeah, so Dean, who really was this character we've seen a couple times, but had no like major part of the movie. He's the one that's like, we're going to break him. So Jane obviously is in the picture, but she's not in the scene. Philip and Heather, or Dean and Heather, get Philip committed. They're taking him to the sanitarium. Jane, like Heather and Dean are like in love. Jane leaves with everybody else. So, so it's like Philip's out of the picture. He's no longer a threat. His plan worked of using Jane to get the money.
Yeah.
But instead of splitting the money between Jane and Philip, Heather is now splitting the money between Jane and her.
Yeah. And like Jane poses one more time as Heather to go get her $2.5 million, and it's just like,
sign it over.
Hold off on my gift to my dad, please. And gets in this private jet. And I mean, I guess I assume, like most people assume, like she's gonna go live her life, and Heather and Dr. Dean are gonna live their life together with an account with $2.5 billion in it. And
that the real Heather knows about. Yeah. So that when the family lawyers contact the real Heather about the money, one, she's aware of it. Two, it's for her.
Yeah.
It's like, so it is really all tied up nicely to where Jane gets her part, which I thought was actually pretty awesome of Heather. I never trusted that Philip was going to give her the money anyway.
I didn't either.
But for Jane to actually be like, you know what? I will give you $2.5 million. Like, it wasn't her plan to begin with, and she still signed off on it. And even if I were to Jane, I'd have been like, I'd even take $1 million. Like,
right. Like,
as long as I get a cut.
Like, give me a little something, please.
Yeah. Everything I've been through, as long as I get a cut, I'm fine with it. And that's it. Like, Jane flies off on the private jet with her money. Heather and Dean, like you said, are Philip-less with theirs, and that's the film. I really liked this movie.
I did too.
I love finding little gems like this. I really do. Movies that I'm like, how did I not know about this one? And then you come across it and you're like, wow, I'm just really, really happy with it. What would you grade this movie?
I'm gonna give it an A. It was solid.
Too. Yeah, I'm also gonna give it an A. I was just really, really pleased with it. Again, does it fit horror? Yeah, kind of psychological horror in a way, but not like the only blood in the movie, and they went hard with the blood.
Yeah.
Was Jane's deformed face. Yeah. Like, there was a lot of gore and blood there.
She was pretty messed up.
Yeah. So kudos to Philip for actually being a pretty solid plastic surgeon, despite being a sociopath. Yeah. The dude was good at his job because he took this woman who had hamburger for a face and made her look like his daughter convincingly, including, making sure the vocal cords are tied up the way they should be. And like, guy knows his stuff.
Yeah, he does.
So, but yeah, that's I really did. I like this movie. What lesson do you have to deliver from a movie like this? We haven't done this in a while.
Yeah, I know, man. You're getting me, catching me on the spot. Honestly, I think this kind of leads to like just a trust thing. Like, you sometimes might think that you know somebody, but you don't.
Yeah.
And I have recently like come into this with my life, not with my dad or anyone in my family, but it's just like you have to be careful who you trust with some of those intimate or like personal
Oh,
things.
yeah.
It's because
It's
they're
me
not
are you
always
talking about me?
yeah, it's you.
I figured.
They're not always there for your benefit.
No. Sometimes we are a stepping stone for someone
Yeah.
else's advantages,
Yep.
and it's unfortunate.
Good.
But no, I like that. I would kind of echo that too with if a deal seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
Like this this plan from Philip to Jane was shady all the way up and down. Hey, my father-in-law died. He's leaving my daughter $5 million. I don't know where she is. Why don't you pretend to be her so I can have the money and I'll split it with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I'd have been like, there's a lot of flags here.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. But I'm glad they did because it turned into a nice film for
Yeah,
us to
it
cover.
did.
What do you have for us next week?
All right.
I'm excited. I like the unknown. What do we got?
I have got a 1992.
Okay.
So it's old for me.
Yes, it is.
I really like Winona Ryder. It's got Anthony Hopkins in it.
Okay.
We're gonna go with Dracula. Bram Stoker.
Yeah, he's the author. Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is Francis Ford Coppola's
Bram
Dracula.
Stoker's Dracula because. So my uncle he buys and rebuilds all of these pinball machines.
Okay.
And so I was over there a couple weeks ago, and his most recent one is Bram Stoker's Dracula. And like it talks to you and it says like all these different things. And yeah, so I was like, I think that's going to be my next horror movie that I pick. And he's like, yeah, you definitely should.
What does he do with the...
he keeps them.
So he collects pinball machines.
He has... I'll have to send you the video real quick. He has, I think, 50 of them in his house.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. And he just, like, he rebuilds them all. And he's got, like, they've been in... he's got some that have been in movies. Yeah, it's really
very
neat.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I've always enjoyed pinball, but I've never been super it's one of those that if someone has a pinball machine, I'll play it, but I've never been like I want a pinball machine.
Yeah.
And I do love like a themed pinball machine.
Mm-hmm.
Like something like that would be pretty cool. Yeah, I'll definitely watch that.
Yeah, the picture that I just sent you is his dining room. Okay, he is the ultimate bachelor. Like. Yeah, but he's got like this huge finished basement and they're all down in there, and then like his dining room, he's got 5 set up on one side. He's got a 3-bedroom house, and 2 bedrooms are just fully lined with pinball machines. I love going over there and just shooting the pinballs and having fun. So yeah, I can't wait.
Curtis and I covered this every February on my other podcast. Let's Talk About Flicks. We do a Wives' Choice Month. And his wife had chosen this as a film. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. But I really enjoyed this movie. It's a solid film. And are you familiar enough with the Dracula story? Not really. Okay. No. So
this will be my first like Dracula, like we've watched some vampire movies,
but true like Dracula.
Yeah. This is my first.
Yeah. It's a very romantic story.
Okay.
And so, but no, good pick. Bram Stoker's Dracula. I like this movie. Oscar-winning Bram Stoker's Dracula. This has won 3 Oscars. Keanu Reeves, like you said, Anthony Hopkins, Gary Oldman. Just in my opinion, one of the greatest actors ever. Very solid film. Very, very solid film. So yeah, we will be back next week to watch Bram Stoker's Dracula. Social media wise, you guys could find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I am gonna get back to the reels on YouTube, and if I think about it, I'll drop them on Facebook and TikTok just to get little small bite-sized out there for us. And then next week I'll have to come up with something so that we've got a movie of my recommendation next week. But until then, you got anything to add?
No, just enjoy what sunlight we have. Oh my goodness.
I will. It did feel good only having to do one movie
Yeah.
this week.
Yeah. And it's just like getting dark so soon. I'm like, I feel
Yeah.
like when it's time to be dark, like the melatonin in my body is like, go to bed right
Yeah, just
now.
go to sleep. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's sleepy time.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, we're marching right through. Already, a week into November. Christmas right around the
Mm-hmm.
corner. We are coming up on episode 100 too, by the way.
Ooh.
Let me look real quick just because I'm curious. But yeah, we are. I think we're in the 90s. I want to say like this is episode 97 or something like that.
Okay.
If I can remember my password. You know what? I can't. So I'll figure that out. But yeah, we're in the 90s, something like that. But no, we will see you guys next week when we talk about Bram Stoker's Dracula. So for another episode of Education, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And we'll see you then.
Bye.